I guess one big change that we had to go through this year was going from Otis Smith to Rob Hennigan.
Yeah.
I mean, Otis served his team pretty well. He was part of the group that drafted Dwight. He drafted JJ. So, I mean,
Ryan Anderson,
the trade. Courtney Lee, Vince Carter,
yeah.
Ray Ralston, that trade. But, fortunately, Otis's time had come. Few bad moves that people weren't too fond of. Gilbert Arenas, trading for Hito back. And then ultimately Dwight Marion did it. But, I think getting Hennigan is maybe the smartest move that our front office has made in a long time.
Yeah.
He started off pretty much cleared house. He fired pretty much anybody that was involved with Otis Smith's front office, including a lot of people were upset, but Donald Foyle, who's still pretty active in the community here, but, a lot of people did like O'Donnell. He played on our team for a few years. And the media, I don't think the media really understood what he was going after.
Not at all, yeah, not at first.
Because, I was watching that press conference after he traded JJ, and they were pretty hostile towards him.
Really? Even then?
Yeah, they were like, you've just traded the franchise player and 2 fan favorites in your first season. How can you possibly expect?
Right.
And, I just think, maybe they're finally going to wrap their head kind of around after seeing what Tobias had to bring.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is Otis lived and died by every trade that he made. That's all he had to offer was making trades.
Yeah.
Rob has an entire vision, and he's building this whole city, really. He said in his press conference he wants to give us something to be proud of as fans. I never heard Otis saying it. You know what I mean? Otis was, I hope this trade works. And if it did, okay, cool, great job, Otis. If it didn't, we were all mad at Otis. Rob is so, beyond that, and he has this grand vision, and slowly but surely, even myself, because I'm a huge Ryan Anderson fan and JJ fan, I didn't want those trades to happen at all. I wanted those guys to stay, so yeah. I was a little upset myself, but once you sit down and you go, wow, I see what he's doing, and I see why it will work in the long run, that's a totally different thing than, Otis just sort of going, oh, I hope this works, didn't work, crap, and just constantly saying, I'm happy with this team the way it is, and I'm not going to make any trades. Then making a trade, it's like, well, then you're just lying. He never really seemed to really have an ability to understand what he was doing, why he was doing it, how it was going to help the team, how it was going to lead. A lot of it seemed like maybe he was even just doing it just to appease Dwight, really.
Yeah.
And that's you can't build a team that way. And he was totally not focusing on a relationship with Stan, or definitely not focusing on a relationship with the fans, which seems to be Rob really wants that. He really wants an entire community process of, I want you to believe in what we're doing. I want you to be passionate. We're going to be passionate. Jacques' going to be passionate. Players are going to be passionate. And we're going to create an awesome environment like OKC. There's a reason why OKC's fans are crazily passionate. Is because they believe in what's going on. And the team communicates with them and says, we're going to be honest with you, and we're going to tell you what we're doing here. And the GM and the coach and the owners and the players agree and understand each other and communicate. And when you have that kind of a team concept, it's pretty, it's beyond each specific trade. And although looking back on it, I do now I'm fine with all of his trades. You get to the point where you're kind of fine with whatever. Like, you realize if a trade happens, it's a guy you like, it's okay because it works for this reason and this reason. And obviously we saw, in the Ryan Anderson trade, we got Gustavo. Everyone said, well, we don't need Gustavo. What is this guy? Rob Hennigan's an idiot. Well, what did we do? We packaged Gustavo with the JJ trade. So obviously Rob had the first trade he made linked to the last trade he made. So obviously he has a pretty clear vision. Yeah, I'm getting Gustavo, but I know why I'm getting Gustavo because I need to put him with this trade. So when I make this trade, and that's a year later. He had that much vision for the entire season. The first trade he made went with the last trade he made. He's definitely doing things that have a purpose to them and have pieces to them that you can't react to each individual trade. It has a bigger vision than that. So I'm pretty impressed, and I'm definitely happy with Rob.
Yeah, and he almost, sometimes you can kind of see he has this kind of clairvoyance with what he does. Like during that press conference, they were asking him, when are you planning on bringing in a superstar?
Right.
And he said, there may be one on the team right now. And I feel like, just a couple games later, Tobias has had his career high in points, and I think he's averaging over 18 points a game with his time in Orlando. So, I mean, he could be that superstar. I think maybe Rob actually saw that in him maybe back months ago. I mean, he's obviously been looking at this guy for a while. So.
Same thing with Vooch. Same thing with, to a lesser extent, Mo. I mean, he sees things in guys that nobody else sees. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm sure it has to do with his team, too, and research, but he sees things in guys that nobody else sees. I mean, no one was excited about Vucevic. No one was excited about Tobias Harris. And some people were if they really, really knew, but no one had seen them do what he knew they were going to do if he just gave them the right. It's crazy, and I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome to see.
I mean, yeah, Vucevic, I mean, who would have expected he's the second rebounder in the league this year? He's got a great post game. He's got a mid-range shot, so he's got all the tools. He just needs to put on a little bit of muscle, and he'll definitely be an elite center in a couple of years, no problem. So he's done I mean, I didn't know what to think when we got this guy. I was like, okay, he was, the second guy in command in OKC, and I didn't know too much about him because, I mean, nobody knows most of these guys that are behind the scenes, video coordinators, scouts.
Right.
And you don't know what they have to offer. Coaches, players, you can see visually what they do. But GMs, they're behind the scenes, and it's all just kind of in their head. So really you just have to kind of trust that the front office is making the right move when they bring in that GM, and I think they definitely made the right move with Rob.
It took a long time too, and I mean they took longer than the media wanted, and Rob's taken longer. He says that word process a lot. It's basically a joke at this point. We're like, man, Rob always says process, but his process and the team's process worked, and the fact that they took a long time to get a coach, they took a long time to get a GM. There was a lot of things they could have just got Brian Shaw. They could have just gotten Nate McMillan from Portland. I mean, there's a lot of quick reactions they could have done. Rob could have said, oh, we're losing Dwight, let's get Andrew Bynum. Replace a star with a star. There's a lot of quick and easy decisions this team and this organization could have made that would have made this whole thing not as much fun for us fans and wouldn't have worked. This whole thing works because they took their time and they stopped and they said, well, what if we didn't just do right away what everyone thinks we're going to do? What if we talked about, what guy works and what kind of vision do they have? And obviously, because they had all those meetings in, it was Michigan, where the DeVos lived.
Yeah.
And they brought him to the house and met the entire family and had, in-depth meetings. Well, who are you? What do you want to do with this team? And they must have really had a great conversation with Rob where he really said, look, this is my 5-year plan. This is what's going to happen. It isn't just about, I think we should get Bynum. That doesn't, that's not enough to impress, for 5, that he had a long plan and he understood what this team needed, and he's really, shown in his first year that plan, if you just stick with it and you give it time, it works. And I think as the years go by, it's just going to work more and more.
Oh, yeah. You can definitely tell there's what he calls a process is going on. I mean, he has kind of an analytical evaluation of everything he's done. He's made smart moves. He's drafted well. Nicholson and O'Quinn. I mean, he picked O'Quinn, 49th pick, and that guy's contributed almost instantly to our team. So, and then Daquan, the unsigned rookie. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing. So I say we just buy into the process. How many years it takes to get us back to contention, I'm totally down for it.
I mean, if you can trade JJ into something that as fun and as exciting and as talented as Tobias Harris, then what else can we ask for? I mean, of course, a lot of us wanted to keep JJ, but I mean, he obviously has his reasons, and we got to just sort of trust it at this point. I mean, I don't see any reason not to. I mean, every trade he's done has ended up being a great trade.
Yeah, so, I mean, going forward, he's going to have a lot more decisions to make. Right now, the immediate issue that's facing us down is what do we do with Hito and Al Harrington, who are two guys on pretty big contracts, and do we want to keep them, let them expire? I mean, Harrington, he's got a few years left. They're non-guaranteed, but so we have the option to keep Hito, and I think he actually may keep Hito because Hito, with his partially guaranteed contract, is going to be kind of a valuable trade asset for teams that want to dump cap space. So my opinion is he dumps Harrington. I mean, even Alice kind of seen the writing on the wall when they were talking to him in the exit interviews.
Yeah. What's his contract situation? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, he's getting about...
Does he have another year?
He's got a few years.
Oh, does he?
They're partially guaranteed contracts, though. So
okay, so we could do the same thing with Ito. We could buy out for less.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he's making about $8 million a year.
Okay.
So I think he might be the one we buy out, or we could keep them both, just because we want to kind of keep the books full. But I don't. Yeah.
I don't think we'll keep them both.
Yeah.
At least one of them is gone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least one of them. I mean, just for money reasons and for space reasons, because we have enough forwards right now. I just can't see keeping them both.
No, yeah. No,
and Big Baby Davis.
Yeah, you got to think. And then, of course, the Gilbert Arenas contract that we're paying him $20 million a year for the next. I think next year is the last year on his contract.
I mean, I think either Hidu or Al or both are gone. Yeah. I think Big Baby Davis stays, but I could see him leaving as well, being traded. You know, I think the best thing if we could trade Al or Turk, but someone was saying because couldn't you basically give that to a team as a contract like Hidu's situation like that would save them money. They buy out his contract?
Let's say they have a couple guys that expire in 2 years, 3 years, and they're trying to be a player in the 2013 or 14 free agency, and they need to get their cap down.
Right.
They would take Hito and then buy him out.
Okay.
And they would give us some assets, draft picks, whatever for it.
So that might be, if there's any team interested in that. Otherwise, I think what we'll end up doing is buy out one of them or both of them, kind of like we did with Q Rich,
Yeah.
And that's the thing too is with Rob. I mean, I definitely don't want to say heartless, but certainly able to be emotionless and just make whatever decision he needs to make that's best for the team. That the Q Rich situation. I mean, it's somewhat of a fan favorite. We all love Q. The big bench guy, always dancing on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we liked Q. Bought him out, had to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I think he's going to do the same thing with Turk and Al. At the end of the day, he's going to sit him down and say, "Look, this is why this is happening. This is why it works for the team. We need to buy out your contract." Even with Turk, I think he'd be able to say that to Turk and say, "I know you've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
We respect what you've done, but it's this is how this works for the team." And I think I heard Al say that he understood it and was expecting it a little bit. I think I've even heard Turk say it too, like he understands and he expects it a little bit.
Yeah.
We even heard JJ say it. JJ was prepared for it too. So I mean, I think Hennigan has honest conversations with these guys and lets them know, look, this is what's going to work for the team. We're going to try and keep you. We like you here, but whatever works for the team is what's going to happen. So.